How's it going, everybody? Right now, we would like to take time to acknowledge and make aware the current situation with Keyontae Johnson, who, if you did not know, collapsed in the middle of the game on the 12th against Florida State, seemingly out of nowhere. Absolutely shock. He has been heavy on my heart, him and his family, with the fear, with so much unknown, especially as why this has happened. But as of now, after the game, he was in critical but stable condition. We saw in a medically induced coma, and he is now, I believe, he has come somewhat out of the coma. A report has shown that he has been speaking in FaceTime with the team. But anyways, everyone, please continue to send prayers this way, not this way, not to me. Send prayers towards that family, towards the situation. We just thank you. Everyone that is known of the situation, I thank you for the prayers you've sent, and just what I've seen, everyone just thinking about this family and this young man. And hopefully we're all hoping for the best. But here you go. This is the next episode with Matt Walsh. Enjoy. What's going on, world? It's your boy, Patrick Young, host of The Young and the Rowdies, brought to you by the Field of 68 Media Network. I want to thank those guys again so much for allowing me to be a part of this awesome show. It's been so awesome to rekindle and connect with anyone and everyone that's had a hand in the Florida basketball program. Thank you guys so much for listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you have this right now. Please continue to rate, review, and share. It is so appreciated. I love seeing the reviews coming in. I'm loving just being able to bring answers to a lot of questions and things that you never got a chance to hear about. Anyways, without further ado, our next guest, he was somewhat of a villain, if you can think of who I mean. He was known for his unique look, but also his awesome game. Thoroughly excited that we get to dig into him as a college player, professional player, overseas player, and now a team owner. Anyways, we'll get all into that into this next episode, and you'll get to see this next guest. So excited. Can't wait. Without further ado, I'm so excited to bring our next guest, Gator great Matt Walsh. Probably hard to recognize him without his hair, but this is my guy. I'm so excited to have him here. He's tuned in to us all the way from New Zealand. Matt, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Patrick. Yeah, my one regret is that I don't still have the curls, but I tossed the hat on now, and I'm all right.
Why'd you decide to let him go? You had him, when we were playing overseas, and I got a chance to see you in Turkey. You actually, no, you had them. They were cut by then as well. When did you decide to let them go?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I don't know if it's father time. The curls are not as voluptuous as they used to be. So once they lost their luster, I had to adjust.
Man, you're far away from Holland, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What's it like over there in New Zealand?
Yeah, this is about as far as you can go. It's amazing. We've been very fortunate here. We've got no COVID. We're about to get into summer. I figured I'd give you the whole view here. We got Rangitoto volcano in the background. I live right here on Takapuna Beach, so figured I'd walk down and do this. But yeah, we've been lucky here. We're getting ready to start our season with the NZL Breakers. So yeah, life is pretty good.
How's the family doing? How's everyone? You're there with all your family, right?
Yeah, I've got my wife and 3 kids, and I had one daughter here, so I've got one Kiwi child. They say she's going to be the easiest. It hasn't panned out that way yet. But yeah, they're good. They've been able to stay in school, and we just had a brief disruption earlier this year. So all things considered, relative to the rest of the world, we feel pretty lucky.
Yeah, I'm over here in Athens, Greece. I've been here for since the beginning of October. Training, I've been able to do all my rehab stuff with my knee, but as far as getting on the basketball court, because of lockdown, it's impossible. So going kind of stir crazy. You can do so many things outside of the court, but at one point, it's like, I'm a basketball player. I need to do the stuff that translates and remember doing the things that things that I love to do, playing the game. So I'm hoping and praying that my agent can finagle something to get me just inside. I'll come and sweep the floors if I have to. I mean, overseas, sometimes they don't sweep the courts the best. So I can be the guy, and I'll do it for free.
You're willing to do anything. Why
Right.
Athens? Why did you head back down? I know this is my interview, but I'm interested why you're in Athens.
It worked out really well after I got cut from my team in Israel to come here and train. They have one of the best physical therapy centers, and left myself available for a team to get picked up as soon as I'd be ready. When I first got here, there were no restrictions, limited. Everything closed at 12 o'clock, but with cases starting to get in the thousands here, they shut everything down. It's a 9 p.m. curfew, and you got to send a text message out to everyone to the government to certify what you're doing. So I'm debating if I'm going home sometime soon because mentally being out here on lockdown and alone and not playing ball is a little tough. But just trying to weather the course right now.
Yeah, well, I love Greece, so you're in a good spot too. It's probably my second favorite place in the world. So.
Yes, sir. So, Matt, let's get into it, man. We're this podcast is devoted to everything. First and foremost, Gator basketball. Well, first and foremost, the guests, their life, make sure they're doing well. Then, their time, some stories with Gator basketball, and then transitioning on their life after and what they're up to now, things they've learned. So, first, let's go back to your recruiting process, all the way back till then. What was it like? Being a high school guy and then getting recruited by Coach Donovan when things started out for you?
Yeah, so I was a late bloomer. My freshman year, I was about 5'9". I was very skilled, but, I played JV my freshman year. And then I grew 6 inches over the summer, like the course of that season. Sophomore year, I was player of the year in my league. I was a very good player. And that's when I finally started to get recruited. I remember the first letter I ever got was from Penn State. And then going into my junior year, that was when, Florida had Mike Miller and Teddy Dupay and these guys. And that's when it became like the hot program. They went to the Final Four in 2000, I believe. And it was always a dream of mine to play for Coach Donovan. And then Coach Anthony Grant, who's at Dayton now, came and saw me play in the Primetime Classic, which is where LeBron played against Carmelo. And it's where all the top matchups were. And after the game, they offered me a scholarship. And I kind of knew right then I was going to go to Florida, but I kept my recruitment open. Jay Wright at Villanova got the job there. He really recruited me hard. But I took one unofficial visit to Florida, and that was it. I went out to the swamp, had a fun night, and then that was the wrap. I committed to Florida, I think, the next day. They did the whole thing in the O-Dome where they do the Rowdy Reptiles thing and your jersey hanging up. I was like, man, how can I go anywhere else?
What? Oh, man, I didn't get all that. Of course. So going back to that time, how was your life as a student athlete? How was just your experience as being in the up-and-coming program at the time? Coach Donovan, before Teddy Dupay got there, they 2 losing seasons. Then they come in with a great class, and 2 losing seasons again, 12 wins, and then they make this run to the Final Four. They starting to turn the program, starting to turn around. Coach Donovan's like relentless when it comes to the recruiting, and you finally get there. What was life as a student, and then how was just your experience as an athlete?
It was amazing. I mean, I think the Florida Gators and University of Florida do it right. Everything from training table and the tutoring center and Tom Williams, they take care of you pretty well. It was always one of the easy ones to deal with. So I went to class for the most part, unless I had too late of a night. And I just loved life at Florida. It was just amazing. I mean, living in the dorms my freshman year, I went down for summer B. Best experience of my life. I think back now and couldn't have imagined going anywhere else. Sometimes you want to think, oh, if I would have went here, how would have things turned out? I never have those thoughts because I cherish my time at Florida so much that I wouldn't trade it for any other outcome.
Man, I got to tell you, when my senior year was one of the best years of my life for sure. Just a team that we were like, I don't say like gods, but we were just such looked at in a way because we were number one in the country. We had gone to a point where we didn't lose for like over 100 days. And the love that we received, man, I was like, man, I never wanted to leave college. And then once I did leave and become a pro, I was like, wow, we had it so well, because there's just a complete difference when you become a professional, especially overseas. But, some of my favorite memories of my life and playing career are at the university. And I can imagine you have some great ones as well.
Yeah, I've got a funny story. So my freshman year was the first time Florida Gators were ever ranked number one in the history. So my freshman year, we get ranked number one, and we really got ranked number one as a result of us winning early in the season and everyone ahead of us losing. So it wasn't like we were just gangbusters. So we were ranked number one ahead of playing at Rupp Arena, Kentucky, on like a Super Tuesday game. So Tuesday night, we're playing at Rupp Arena. They were ranked top 10 or something, and they had a squad. And we went in there, and I remember looking up at the scoreboard. First of all, they're chanting all this stuff, the crazy stuff about me, the craziest fans, old ladies screaming at me.
Oh, yeah.
F you, Walsh, just everything you can imagine. And then I look up at the scoreboard, and we're down 60-28 in the first half. And I just remember being like, oh, shit. And they just put it on us. It was just like one of those wake-up calls. And we ended up having a great year, but it was funny. We didn't last. We were number one for one day. I think the polls came out Monday. And by Tuesday, we were getting our ass kicked by Kentucky. So,
well, you know how it goes when you're number one. Teams are always going to try to expose that by bringing their best.
No, of course, especially Kentucky. There's no love lost there, and they had a good team: Chuck Hayes and Gerald Fitch, and they had some guys who could play. So, I think we ended up being ranked number one again at some point during my time there. But that was the first time. I remember there was all these articles. First time in team history ranked number one, and it lasted about 16 hours.
What was your experience like with Coach Donovan once you stepped on campus and began getting coached by him?
I think I was, people ask me who was my favorite coach I ever played for, who knew the most. Coach Donovan was, one, my favorite I ever played for, and two, he knew more about the game than anyone I've ever been around. And, I was fortunate enough to be around Pat Riley and Lawrence Frank, and those are the other two that really jump out. But Coach Donovan was just amazing. I remember he'd draw up a play, and Coach Grant would be trying to stop it on the defense, and he'd say, this is how the defender's going to deny here, and you're going to go back door, but they're going to help here, and you're going to pass it here, and you're going to get this shot. And it would happen every single time. And I just remember being like, man, how does this guy know so much about basketball? And not only that, but, he would have you over his house for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And if he could sense something was wrong, he'd call you in the office and speak with you. And I always say the reason why Coach Donovan could, back then, be so hard on his players and tough, which I loved, was because you knew he genuinely cared about you and he loved you. And when you see somebody putting in the work that they did, you would know. Our coaching staff there would be there way before us and stay way after. When you see that work and when you feel how much they care about you, you're willing to let them go at you hard and push you to the limit, which, like I said, for me, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can go back and think about all the times that Coach Donovan got on me, and it was never out of of course, you need to show that he's in charge. He's the coach. You can't disrupt and come onto my, his scene and try and at the point I was there, he had already won the 2 championships and did X, Y, Z. But I came in as a little conceited and just arrogant, not understanding like there's a lot that goes into basketball. But he taught me so much about the game, held me accountable, never, not one day let me just slip. Just any method and what I loved about him is that he coached everybody a little bit differently because he understands we all have different personalities. He knows when he can push a guy a little bit and he knows when he can't. And the next day, like a father figure, he just, we make up for it. He brings you in. If there's something's wrong, you can talk to him and then you move on from it. And he had so many different assistant coaches through my 4 years, and it's not by accident that they're all coaching somewhere else, doing well, continuing their careers, because he just has that effect of doing that being contagious with his attitude and his integrity and the way that he does things. Was any crazy practice stories or something like that you have?
Well, you guys wouldn't have done it by the time you were there, but we used to do the 20 and 20. So in preseason, we used to do the 20 suicides in 20 minutes. And I remember when the summer leading into it, our strength and conditioning coach was like, okay, we're going to start with 8 and 8. So you have 32 seconds to do the suicide, 28-second break, and then you go to your next one. So you do 8 suicides in 8 minutes. And I remember finishing those 8 and 8 and thinking, I have to transfer. There's no way I can do 20 and 20. I just remember being like, this is it for me. What can I do? Like, this is absolutely it. And throughout your preseason, you start 12 and 12, 14 and 14. And over the 5-6 weeks, you get to 20 and 20. And I just remember that feeling of finishing, and they push you so hard, and it was like euphoric. It was the best thing. And I got it right then after, like, now I know why you do this, because when you do that as a group and you fight through that, it builds, I think, your relationships. And man, I've got a lot of crazy stories though with Coach Donovan and Coach Grant. And, I was always kind of a mouthy guy. If I thought something wasn't right or something, I would be talking under my breath. And I remember one time he just got so fed up with us. It was me and David Lee. And he just looked at us and he goes, "Matt Walsh, will you please just shut the fuck up?" And I was just like, oh man, it's like my freshman year, and it was like 2 weeks in, and I was like, man, I better get my ass in line. I'm going to get shipped out of here. But it's like you said, and then after practice, he'd pull you aside and he'd explain his reasoning and why you need to do this. And I just love Coach Donovan. There's not a best experience of my life, and one of the most rewarding things I ever got the privilege to do was play basketball for Coach Donovan.
Yeah, I definitely can reiterate the same. He definitely taught me so much as a man, and just the accountability and how to be a pro. Everyone always tells you, be a pro, but I didn't really understand how that translated until I actually became one. And he instilled in me the habits and just the understanding of, if you want to be great, consistent, this is what the great players do. They fight for inches. They work towards their game. They take care of their body. They study film, etc. If you want it, go for it. If you don't, I'm not gonna hold your hand through it. Especially, that in the pros, no one's gonna hold your hand.
That's right.
Them holding your hand is saying, we're gonna cut your contract and ship you out of here.
Yeah.
they actually are.
You're gone. Yeah, get a flight. That's right.
So going back into your time in 2002 to 2005. First of all, I want to ask, why number 44?
I think it was more a result of just what jersey was left when I was at high school. I think it was like I was probably one of the last picks because I played JV as a freshman.
JV.
And I probably just had like the big baggy triple XL jersey my freshman year. Before, by my junior year, when we were a top program in the country, we got a Nike deal and then we got the good stuff. But my freshman year, I think probably they were just like, here, you shitty freshman, you get this jersey. You're not on varsity. And I ended up with 44 and it just stuck.
Did you embrace the type of villain type of personality that people were like the kind of guy, like, if he's on our team, we love that he's on our team. But, if he's not on our team, we would hate to play against that guy because he's annoying. He's talking trash. He's playing hard. He's up in our star guy's ears and lets the crowd know. Did you really embrace all that?
I absolutely loved it. Yeah. And I started getting that in high school because, I'm this curly haired guy with a headband who looks like I should be, I don't know, not a basketball player. And I'm out there giving everyone buckets. So I love that.
It's not the most intimidating look, Matt.
No, especially not. I mean, I've got the goatee. It was something. It was something. But I loved it, and it started my freshman year everywhere I went, at Kentucky. And, I used to bait guys into stuff. After the whistle, I'd throw like a behind the back pass and hit them in the chest with the ball, or, something that looked like it was inadvertent. And then they'd retaliate and I'd get a technical and I'd wink at them when I'm at the free throw line. And I used to do all that stuff. I loved it. But they tortured me in the SEC, man. Everywhere I went, they tortured me, and it was great. I loved it. I got nothing better than winning on the road. I used to love playing on the road. I mean, nothing better than playing in front of the Rowdy Reptiles, but going on the road and winning at Tennessee or winning at Georgia, that was the best.
Did where we're going here? Oh, what do you think was the roadblock that kind of kept your teams from, going deep in the tournament? My few years, we kept having a roadblock as well, just not being able to finish games. We had, so blessed to have gone to 3 Elite Eights in a row, but 2 of those Elite Eights, my freshman year and my sophomore year, yes, we were up by, 10 points with, 5 to 6 minutes left in the game and just weren't able to close out. What do you think it was that held you guys back, having such great momentum going into the tournament, but not able to make those deep runs?
Yeah, I think it's different every year. My freshman year, we had such a talented team. We had Justin Hamilton, who played for 15 years overseas at point guard, Brett Nelson, Matt Bonner, David Lee, me, Anthony Roberson. I think we had something like 9 NBA players, something ridiculous on that team, guys who played in the NBA. But, I mean, as you would know, and I think what you'd see with the guys who came right after me, who I played with for a year, Joe Kim and Alan, those guys, a lot of it depends on chemistry and working together and having the same agenda. And I think for us, we just could never figure it out. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think there was just one thing, but we just could never put it together at the right time. We had stretches where we were really good. We went through some adversity my sophomore year with Christian Dreyer just packing up and leaving and signing in Barcelona halfway through the year.
Right.
And then I think my junior year was just a transition year. You had these guys, Joe Kim and Al, coming in, Corey and Torian. And at first, we saw these guys were like, man, like, we didn't quite get it, but they loved each other so much. And I think the reason why they were so successful, they're super talented, was because they were just all in on each other, and it showed on the court. And I think for whatever reason, we just could never figure that out as a class and as my years there. But, I'm just so proud to have played, a small role in the history of Florida Gator basketball.
Absolutely. Could you say that you saw that those guys had that potential after you left to, no one can predict that someone's going to win the championship, but you can see like these guys have something special, something is possible.
I think it's more looking back. I couldn't see it at the time for sure.
Right.
Because none of those guys, Al played a pretty significant role in Corey, their freshman year, but Torian didn't play as significant a role. Joe Kim didn't play. Joe Kim ended up being the leader of those guys, and he didn't play a significant role at all his freshman year. So we end up leaving. And then I think those guys there wasn't as much expectation. They're sophomores. They're coming in. Now all of a sudden, all the upperclassmen left, and they're the leaders of the team.
Right.
And, but you could see it sometimes in pickup. They would battle. They would play against me. It would be me and David Lee and Pete and the older guys playing against them. And, we probably split those games 50-50 when we should have been kicking their ass. And it was
right.
They're just they loved each other, and they put in the work. And I think it's as much about their talent, but also just how they cared about each other and how they played the game as much as how, what they did on the court.
I can imagine just those guys not being as talented at the time. You just know that Joe Kim and Al just played their hearts out probably every time they were there. Because I know David Lee was a dog.
Yeah.
David Lee was probably bullying everybody. But Joe Kim, his freshman year, if I can remember, you'll know better than I did because you were there. But he couldn't seem to get to class on time a lot. I heard that he was getting in a lot of trouble.
When you first, I think everybody has that moment when you get to Florida where you're like, wow, this is pretty good. And you have those issues. And it took Joe Kim about a year to figure it out. He was my roommate on the road, those guys, and what they did winning back-to-back championships is it's historic. It's amazing.
Have you gotten a chance to keep up with any of those guys through the years? Just continuing those relationships, seeing how everyone's doing.
Yeah, I stay in touch with all those guys. So all the guys that I played with, the guys who came after me, Joe Kim's a very close friend of mine. I saw
Awesome.
Torian last summer at Summer League. He lives in Vegas. Corey Brewer. Now that I own the Breakers, I talk to all these guys talking about they got to come out here and play. So, I'm always joking with Joe Kim that, when his time in the NBA is done, he should come. He loves to surf. He always lives in Hawaii. I'm like, what better place than New Zealand? Come out here and be a hero here for a few years.
I know, right? Bro, I'd come out there. I ain't gonna lie. But
we could talk offline.
Yeah, for sure. after, decided to leave early, and we share this same sentiment as far as being undrafted. Definitely, I could have decided to leave earlier when I had a much more higher stock, when the potential was in the position where the NBA scouts don't have all the tape on you and they decide whatever, we've seen this guy, he's not going to do this, et cetera. You already know it's hit and miss anyway with the draft. But in those moments, after, where your name wasn't called, what was going through your mind? I remember, because I had a party. I had people come to this event in Jacksonville. I had about 30 of my closest people there, and was expecting to go around somewhere in the second round. And then I didn't get my name called, and it was just like complete shock, of course, and then just an instant, fire within me of like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to prove when I get an opportunity. My agent was already finding me a summer league opportunity, and that's exactly what I did when I got to the Pelicans. My very first game in the summer league, they had me coming off the bench, and I had 11 points and 13 rebounds in like 15 minutes. I was just like, man, I'm showing, and they signed me the next day. So, what was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, we have a similar story there. So, I went in my freshman year. I scored 26 points my first game. The next game, I had like 20 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. I got National Player of the Week for the first year of my freshman year. I killed it a lot of my freshman year, had some ups and downs. My body just failed me at the end. Coach Donovan described me as like a wet piece of pasta or something like that. Something ridiculous in the media. I was like, oh, okay, great, wet piece of spaghetti. And I never like really considered leaving after my freshman and sophomore year. I remember my buddies were at my house after my freshman year, and ESPN was doing a story on the top underclassmen returning to school. And my name was up one of like the 5 guys. And I was thinking, man, I didn't even know that going to the NBA was a consideration.
Right.
It was just kind of, I always anticipated being at Florida forever. And then after my junior year, I got MVP of the SEC championship. We won the SEC championship for the first time. I'd come back from a really significant ankle injury. And I was thinking to myself, this is probably my best chance to get drafted to go in the NBA. I killed my pre-draft workouts. And I expected to go somewhere between like 25 and 50. Like that was my range. I knew there was a couple teams at the end of the first round. And, I found out later after the fact that I was one of the last 2 guys on Miami's big board. Wayne Simeon ended up getting picked. But I was in the same boat. I had people over my house. I didn't think there was any scenario where I didn't get drafted. Didn't get drafted. I was devastated for about 10 minutes. And then I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna prove I belong here. I got signed to Summer League that night by Miami. And this was back when there was a summer league in NBA Summer League in LA. And I went out there. I played the first game. I had, like, to your point, I think I played 15 minutes. I had something like 12 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds. And I was leaving after the first game to go play with the Seattle Supersonics when they had a team in a different summer league. And I was in the limo. They got me a limo on the way to the airport. And I got a call from my agent saying, turn around, Miami's signing you.
Wow.
And I remember being so, I couldn't even process it, that I was just kind of like, hey, limo driver, can you turn around and take me back? This was before Uber. And I was just sitting there, and I didn't really even know how to process it. I couldn't even really feel excitement, because I almost was just like, okay, this is just the first step. And it was a pretty cool moment, but I wish I could have appreciated it more now. But, at that time I was just kind of relieved.
Dang, that's awesome. How long was your experience with being with the Heat?
Yeah, I mean, I was there for a short time. I only played in 2 games. I think I was there with 10 games or something like that. But, so I signed in July. I went immediately to Miami. I ended up getting cut in December. I played on the team that won the championship that year. So I played with Shaquille and Shaq. I played with Shaq and Dwayne Wade and Gary Payton and Jason Williams and Alonzo Mourning and Antoine Walker. So it was just amazing. Every day I'd go in, my locker was next to Shaq. It was just amazing. I look back and I tell my son now, like, I played with Shaq, and he tells all his friends, and it's so it's pretty cool that I got to experience that. And then the next year I played a short time. I played all of preseason with the Nets, and I played with Jason Kidd and Vince Carter and Cliff Robinson and Richard Jefferson. So my short time in the NBA was pretty amazing. I got to play with I don't know, 6 Hall of Famers or something. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. I'm very grateful, that I had that time.
I see that you did, did you have a great knowledge of overseas basketball at the time? Because looking up, I see that you did do the G League for a little bit, but, similar to you, I didn't even decide to do the G League because I just knew it wasn't the right avenue for me. I wanted to get the guaranteed money and continue to build my career there. If the NBA was an option for me later, I would rather do that when I had a little bit of money in my pocket and versus, struggling, on 20,000, maybe less than that a year. What was your reasoning for not staying in the G League and deciding to go overseas?
So when I was in the G League, it was the D League, and this was the very start. I mean, I don't know what year the D League launched, but this was early on, and it was a nightmare. Oh man! So I went from playing in Miami, living on South Beach, and I remember I had a bunch of my friends down for New Year's. It was January 1st, and I flew out to Arkansas. I played for the Arkansas Rim Rockers, which team doesn't even exist. It was like an ABA team that joined the G League. And I kid you not, the level of basketball coaching and facilities was worse than when I played in my 7th and 8th grade team. And I got there, I'm living in Section 8 housing that they put you up in. I was there for, I think, a month. And then I got on a plane to go play a road game and just went home. I was like, thank you for everything. And I just went home. I was like, this is not for me. The coaching was awful. Everything about it was really, really bad. And then I ended up training the rest of that year, went to training camp with the Nets. And then I started to build my overseas career. But to your original question, I did not know much about international basketball at all. This was kind of before, you were watching EuroLeague or any of those kind of things. So I didn't know much about it until I got there.
And once you got there, you played for about, I don't know if Wikipedia is exactly correct, but it says 13 different teams. Is that about right overseas?
It sounds about right. Yeah, it sounds about right. I bounced around a lot. I can't remember. I can remember all the teams, but I don't know the exact number. But yeah, I bounced around a lot. I kind of, looking back, I had a few situations that I could have stuck in, but for me, it was always about, and this is one of my kind of big regrets in my basketball career, I was always thinking, what's the next step? So, when I got to Greece and I was a rookie, I led the league in scoring. I killed it, I think, largely because I just didn't know any better. I'm playing against these great European players, and I'm just thinking, well, I came from Florida in the NBA, so I'm going to kill you. And I didn't know who they were. So I'm playing against like Demetrius Dimitridis and Panathinaikos, and I'm scoring 20 in the 5 in the first half. And, I'm telling these Greek guys, like, I don't care who I'm playing against. So then I went from there to the ACB. But the ACB, I always had my eye on getting back to the NBA, and then later in my career, I always had my eye on playing for the Barcelonas of the world. So I was never content on where I was. And I think that's the reason I bounced around so much, because if there's a little bit better opportunity, rather than looking at the big picture and thinking, okay, do it here for 2 years, that's going to be better, I just jumped at the opportunity thinking this is my way to climb the ladder. And I was fortunate. I played on some EuroLeague teams, and I had a very good career overseas, but I wish I would have just kind of enjoyed where I was and enjoyed the moments better, as opposed to being like, okay, what's next?
Where was your favorite place? Is there a favorite place you had to play?
I loved Greece. I said that before. Greece was amazing. Right. I played in Aris, and I played in a small city called Larissa. I loved Italy. I was fortunate. I always played in amazing cities. Aside from Charleroi and Belgium, every other city was amazing.
It was pretty cold up there.
Yeah, it's just not the most beautiful city, but I was near Brussels, and I loved my time there. So it's hard to tell, but I was fortunate. I loved playing in Bamberg. Germany was amazing.
Right.
Slovenia is incredible. Ljubljana is this kind of hidden gem right up there north of Italy. So I was fortunate to live in some amazing places.
Was there any of the locations going in overseas your first few years? Was there any place where you had a type of culture shock, whether it be from the coaching style or the way they did things or the lifestyle, where you're just like, I am not home anymore. This is different. Okay.
Yeah, no question. Here. I had that. I think I was so miserable my first 3 years because I just wanted to get back to the NBA so bad. But my first experience in Europe. I sign in Greece, this small team in Larissa, Greece, middle of Greece, central Greece. And I get there, and my mom flew over with me. She was like, I'll fly over with you. It's my first time out of the country. I'm 21 years old. I'm like, all right, let's go. We get there. My house is down like this dirt road. It ended up being a really nice apartment, but we're across from like these chicken coops. I'm looking around like, where the hell am I? We go to watch the first practice. And I remember sitting there being like, oh man, like watching. And the coach ends up being Bartzokas, who coached in Olympiacos. I think maybe you played for him.
Yeah.
And one of the best coaches in Europe, but he's a young coach at the time. And he's yelling at these players. And I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, man, I'm so much better than these guys. Like, what am I doing here? And yeah, I literally remember sitting there being like, I'm probably just going to fly back with my mom in 5 days. And it ended up being the most amazing experience, but I certainly wasn't ready for it at the time.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. My first experience, I was in Turkey, Galatasaray, the last year you played. Yeah. And I didn't know anything about Turkey. I got cut from the Pelicans that first week in December. I want to say like December 4th. 2 days later, I'm on a flight heading to Istanbul. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not proud of it. I got drunk as a skunk on the plane. For no reason. I was like, first class, there's no pressure. I'm not going to play anytime soon. You know, they're probably jet lag, you know, common sense, got to go through medical testing. I'm going to enjoy the flight. So I drank a little bit too much. So I get there, stuck in traffic for about 3 hours, going to the hospital.
Least, yeah, easy.
6 hours in the hospital, doing all this testing, passed all the medical testing, game the next day.
Oh, yeah. They get you right into it.
0 points, maybe 1 rebound. I don't even know if I felt my body in the game. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, my gosh, the fans have to be thinking, what do we do? Like, why did they sign this kid? Like, what is he? And then I finally got a good night's sleep, and I had a really good game and one of my best seasons there after that. But, you know, adjusting to I've been spit on. I've had coins thrown at me. I've been called all kinds of crazy names. Social media, you know, if you say anything, if you don't have to say anything on social media, and you know, the opposing team, especially your rivals, they will murder you. They will,
especially in Gala. Yeah, you're playing against FS or Fenerbahce. Yeah,
dude, people in America have no idea what how sports are perceived overseas. That it is like it is such a true passion that they will kill you if you say or do the wrong thing.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that was a fun year.
In 2015, 14-15, that was arguably, you would say, one of your best seasons. I mean, you were cooking. You had a game where I think you had 10 out of 14 from three. I mean, you had a lot of games where you had 40. Why did you decide to transition out and stop playing after having such a great, on top of, you know, some would argue, you could argue maybe the top of your game, scoring-wise?
Yeah. I mean, it was one of my better seasons. It was a draining season as well. I mean, I was playing on a lousy team. First year in the first division, this team called Eskişehir. It was one of those years where we had so many imports come in and out. I was the only guy basically who started on the team and finished on the team. Everyone was there out for themselves, trying to get the next job.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I basically got to the end of that season, and I was very fortunate that during my career, I invested, very wisely in real estate and some early tech companies, and bought some shares in some companies that ended up doing really well. So it's 2015. I'm looking around. I'm 32 years old. I'm like, man, do I want to, I didn't have Fenerbahce and Galatasaray knocking on my door, teams like that. I was going to play on another mid-level team for decent money. And I decided, I remember sitting there that summer and I was like, man, let's get on with the rest of my life. I was ready to get into the next realm of business. I knew that, my goal was always to have a very successful basketball career, but I always wanted to be much more successful for the rest of my life than I did during my basketball career. And I just felt like I had some other opportunities to learn from some really smart people. And if I didn't jump on them, that they may pass and they may not be there, now if I was still playing.
Right.
So for me, it was always, I felt like I got so much out of the game of basketball, and I was so grateful. And I always wanted to be a 10-year pro, and I absolutely loved it. And there's times I miss it so much, but I
Yeah,
just felt like the game had given me so much, and I'd gotten so much out of the game that I was ready to move on and ready for a new challenge. And
absolutely.
that's really what it came down to, is just I was just ready for the next challenge.
Yeah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your life to live, and there's no blueprint for that. You can go where the tides, wherever your passion is, and that's what you decide to do. Of course, it's difficult because you were been in that identity, that role for so long to step into the unknown. But you have your family, you've probably experienced almost everything there was at that point, basketball wise. That's what I asked Coach Donovan when he decided to finally leave Florida and go to the NBA. He said, in college basketball, I finally realized I experienced everything that there possibly was. But, transitioning out of playing in 2018, you're one of the owners of the New Zealand Breakers. How did we get from here to there? Was that ever on your horizon right after you retired, or how did that even how did any of it happen?
Absolutely not. I never anticipated owning a basketball team in New Zealand. I had never been to New Zealand. But, I talked about some of the opportunities that I had in 2015 when I decided to retire. And one of those was one of my best friends and mentors and former agent, Jason Levian, at the time was, he's just coming off being the managing owner of Memphis Grizzlies. And I spent some time in Memphis when I was still playing with him. He was the owner of DC United and Swansea City, two international football clubs. And, I was talking to him about retiring. We went and watched the U.S. Open together. And he was like, if you're ready to retire and you want a new challenge, he's like, do it. Come learn from me. He's like, I think you'll love the sports executive ownership business. He's like, he was splitting time between DC and New York. He's like, you can be around as much as you want. We'll get you involved in some special projects. So I was like, man, what an opportunity. So I decided to do it. I got an inside look at what Jason did, and I was like, man, this is very cool. I love this. Yeah. I invested in DC United, so I'm a minority owner there. I invested in Swansea City. I invested in the USL team, Loudoun United, and I absolutely loved it. And then mutual friends of the former owners of the Breakers and myself called me, and they were with the owner, Liz Blackwell. She was in New York to do the New York Marathon, and she was telling our friend, hey, we've owned this team for 16 years. Our kids are grown up. I think we're ready to move on. So he called me and he said, you should take a look at this. The league is about to blow up. They've got a connection with the NBA. Auckland is this incredible market, the only team in New Zealand. He's like, you're going to love it there. You should go check it out. So in December of 2017, I took a 9-day trip here, was blown away by the country, the people, the facilities. I very quickly, by end of February, worked out a deal with the former owners, the Blackwells, who are the amazing people, my partners. And I just kind of went for it. And that's always how I've been. I felt like it was my time to go to the NBA. I took the chance and I went. And I really believed in this, in the business. And it's been the best decision I ever made, both from a personal and a family level. New Zealand is the most amazing place on earth. And business-wise, if you look at what the NBL has grown to in the 2.5 years since I bought the team, there's now 4 American ownership groups. Most recently, Brian Colangelo bought the Hawks, 3-time NBA Executive of the Year. LaMelo Ball, RJ Hampton, these guys are coming to our league to play. So I really feel like I've been a catalyst in that growth, and it's been so exciting to, last year I got a chance to play against Billy Donovan in NBA preseason. And talk about like the thrill of a lifetime. We played 3 NBA preseason games. So it's been amazing to watch the growth. But that's kind of how I ended up here in a short form story.
Oh man, no, I love that. That's a great clip for me to learn about the situation, and for everyone else, because it's like, how did, when people hear this, I'm like, what the heck is Matt Walsh doing now? And it's like, wow, he's living the dream. He's got his family. He's in a COVID-free area. That's the number one priority, because things are going kind of crazy right now. But, talking about the league, obviously, I'm sure you're not tired of talking about it, but you talked about it plenty of times. I've seen the interviews and just the experiment with RJ Hampton, getting him there. First off, how was his transition? Because, he's coming in as a top 10 pick projected, and it's already a lot for a 18-year-old kid to transition into college. And then it's even more for a one-and-done guy to transition into the NBA. And not only, He's declared that he didn't want to play college, wanted to be a pro. Came over there. He's playing against grown men right away, and being away from home. I saw that his family came with him, so that's obviously was great, was awesome. But how was that experience and just transitioning him and helping him, building that vision for the league? Because I think it's awesome. I definitely think there should be a lot more players that can make a lot more money compared to the G League and have a great life living out there.
Yeah, and that's what we sold him and his family on, was basically, look, we weren't really competing with the Kansas and Kentuckys and Dukes of the world. I told that, I recruited the family for basically the better part of a year. And I told them, if you want to go to college, you're never going to hear me say a negative word about it. And I told them I had the best experience at University of Florida. I could never imagine doing anything else. But what I told them was, if you're going to go pro and you want to be a pro and you want to learn how to be a pro, then this is the best place in the world to do it. I've been through everything you're going through. We've got a world-class coaching staff, world-class facilities, and you're going to come and live in paradise for a year. And you can just focus on being a pro. Now, that said, it's still not easy. You got an 18-year-old kid moving overseas. Yes, he's got his family with him, but, a whole new league, a whole new world. He had never played against anyone, minus some international stuff, except high school players, because he reclassified. So he was really supposed to be a senior last year in high school, which people don't realize. So it was a big adjustment. And in our league, there's no nights off. You're playing against Bryce Cotton, Casper Ware, Jerome Randall, all guys who have sniffed the NBA, played some minutes in the NBA. Scott Machado.
Jerome is a dog.
Every night you're playing against killer point guards, and it's the hardest position in our league because it's all imports. It's the most important position. So I think it was a little bit baptism by fire. It's why I'm very high on his prospects in terms of the next few years and what I think he's going to do in the NBA, because I think he's far more ready than any other guy. I think what him and LaMelo did was smart. They made a bunch of money. They came down here, and we're very proud to have been one step in RJ's career development.
Is there any concern with what the NBA is now striving to offer to these young guys that are looking to do kind of similar? They don't want to go to college, but the NBA is opening the G League for this new opportunity for them to play NBA kind of ball and develop and focus on their draft, et cetera. Is there a concern that that's going to affect what you in your vision in the league is going to do, is doing?
We knew it was coming. I mean, Adam Silver the year before said something like, I'm jealous of what the NBL is doing, because if I had a son, I would take a hard look at it. So when you get the commissioner saying that kind of stuff, that change is coming. This year is unique, right? Because we didn't get a next star this year because it was very hard for me to tell a young man and his family, hey, come down here, given all that's happening with COVID, given we didn't know if there was going to be travel restrictions. So we didn't pursue one this year. There's no question that a lot of guys are going to be attracted, like they have been this year, Jonathan Kuminga, and some of these young guys to the D League. But what we can offer, I think, is different. I think it's unique. And I think just like RJ and LaMelo were unique circumstances, we will still get some guys. And in terms of our league, I always feel like we'll be able to go out and get the best players. So while there's I think it's great. I think it's great what the D League has done, because if you're a young player, and I always tend to look at things through a player's perspective, look at the options you have. You can go to Duke or Kentucky. You can go to the D League and make some money. You can go overseas. There's so many different paths. And, every year now in the draft, you're seeing top 10 guys getting drafted from overseas. So it's not like if you're coming to the NBL, you're hiding for a year. Everyone's going to see you the same amount. We had every single team come to New Zealand last year to watch RJ Hampton play. We had games where people were watching online, more than 2 million people streaming our games.
Wow.
So everyone's watching. Our league's a known entity now. So while the D League is just another path, I don't think it really affects us too much. Yeah,
I think you guys have great have had more great exposures these last 2 years, and why wouldn't even a lot of these guys that stay in the G League for a while, they're stuck trying to get a call up, and they're not making much money at all. Not that, you're making $1 bajillion, but you'll be doing much better off, and you'll be getting great minutes. You'll be able to play towards something, a great life. So once in a lifetime experience. The team pays for your living expenses, et cetera. Those things. It's fantastic. I can't see why it's not an opportunity that's not going to continue to blow up.
I'll never get it. These guys have played 5-6 years in the G League. of course, everyone wants to get to the NBA, but there's different routes. And, you know, if you look back at your career and you've spent 6 years making $15K for the season or $20K for the season, at some point you got to think, man, did I do this right? Well, like you said, you get these amazing life experiences. Like I look back at all the cities I played in, the cultures I got to experience, and it's just amazing. And I think we're unique in that we have that approach, and we're so grateful for that. And I think most guys look at it like it's a failure. And I certainly did earlier in my career, but by the end of my career, I was so grateful that I was getting a chance to, play basketball and live around the world and have these incredible experiences. The friendships you make. At the end of the day, it's the relationships and the experiences that, at least for me, that I cherish the most.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, no one can be a better Matt Walsh than Matt Walsh, and only you can write your story and be on your journey and your path in life and do the best you can. Whichever route you go, no one can do it better. Same for me, same for everybody. Whatever you desire to do in your life that you feel passionate to do, and you're doing it. I mean, how many of these guys are going to have an opportunity to do what you're doing right now and have your family there and continue to grow and challenge yourself, man? I'm really inspired, and I know that you got to go. I know you got another business owner thing going on here as the owner of the team. I'm so thankful for your time, Matt. It was a pleasure and honor grabbing you so early in the morning and getting this awesome background.
Yeah, you got to soak it up. I know it's getting cold around the world, so everyone soak it up. No, Patrick, I enjoyed this so much. We got to do it again because I feel like we just started getting into it. So we got to trade some stories again. And, when you've got through all the other good guests and you need somebody in the emergency one, you call me again and I'll hop on with you.
Definitely, man. Well, it was a pleasure. We'll chat. I'll shoot you a message soon. Anyways, everyone, thank you for joining. This was the episode with Matt Walsh on the Young and the Rowdies, Gator Nation, and everyone around. Stay rowdy.